All right, look, I used to sleep outside a Holiday Inn in my car, and I was practically homeless. And no one knew that I was homeless because I was working on the business and I was working at a fine dining restaurant in Draper, Utah by the name of Toscano, right? An Italian restaurant, fine dining, rich people eat there, higher middle class eat there too. And no one knew that I was homeless, but I just kept at it because I knew that that was what starting from zero, starting from scratch looked like. And I knew eventually I would get somewhere with it. I just knew because I told myself I can't give up and I will win as long as I don't give up. So I just kept at it. And even though it was a really, really, really rough time, I knew for a fact that if I just kept at it, I would build something that I was proud of, and eventually I would be on stage talking about how I was homeless, how I was sleeping in my car for 7 months from July 25th, 2024 until March 3rd, March 3rd, March 7th of 2025. And boy, was that a rough 7 months. So at the end of the day, do I regret it? Definitely don't. It was a rough time, but it's what shaped my character. Just like cold calling did, just like going door to door and doing sales did, just like most of the things that I've had to fight for, most of the things that I've had to take hits on just to learn, that is what taught me. And at the end of the day, I know for a fact that there's a version of you that doesn't give up. A version of you that is just relentless, whether they sleep in a car, whether they go through a hard breakup, whatever it is, I know that version of you doesn't give up because they see a light at the end of the tunnel. And maybe it's with your business, maybe it's with your fitness goals, maybe it's with something that you just truly, truly believe in, but just know nobody sees the work when you're doing it on your own. When it's late nights like this, where it's 12:36 a.m. right now, and I'm here making content about what it is that you should be doing at the end of the day. Because if you're not putting in the work when no one's watching and you only wait for people to watch, then you're relying on people for your growth. And all that's going to do is push your growth to the side until you have an audience, which an audience is not going to show up on their own. Let's just be honest. Okay. But at the end of the day, you don't need anyone's permission to start. All you need is your commitment. Your commitment for that day to just go all out, to do the thing, to get started on the thing. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is that you actually put in the work you got to put in, or else you're not going to have enough reps to justify any growth. Okay? So when I was sleeping in this car for 7 months, homeless, outside of a Holiday Inn, because that's where most cars would actually park, because I didn't want to be in an empty parking lot. And I was actually parking at a car dealership, right? I was not like a Chevy or anything, but it was like a used car dealership. I was parking there because I saw cars, and it got to the point where I was there every day, every night, right? Not every day, every night, because I was sleeping there. And eventually a cop was waiting for me there one night, and I just drive past and I'm like, yeah, it's time to move out of here. Right? Because I'd started waking up later than usual just because I would put in work. I'd come home tired, and by coming home, I mean like driving in my car to this dealership, used car dealership, and I would be tired, right? And I wouldn't wake up until like 10 a.m. And I mean, they're already working by 10 a.m. So they're like, what's this car doing? And then they ended up finding out that I was sleeping in my car. So the next night, a cop was waiting for me there, like, let's see who parks here. And they just saw me swing by, and I was out. And I was like, I'm going to a hotel, outside of the hotel, not sleeping in the hotel. So 7 months of that, imagine. Yet the first day that I was sleeping in my car, I was actually excited because I knew growth would happen from a hard struggle like that. So wherever you're getting to right now, whatever you're fighting for, whatever you're working towards, you're probably running into challenges back to back. Okay? And that's totally fine. But just know those challenges are what make it worth it at the end. Because if there's no challenge, then there's no dark clouds. Therefore, when the sunshine comes, it doesn't feel as good because you didn't go through the dark clouds and the rain and the struggle. Okay? So remember, you don't need anyone's permission to get started. You just need your own commitment. And if you don't even have enough self-value to give yourself that commitment, then the circumstances aren't going to shape themselves for you. You have to shape them yourself. Okay? Look, at the end of the day, all that matters is that you stay as consistent as possible. And it's going to be boring. Trust me, I'm going through it right now. Okay? Consistency on the business, putting in the reps, putting in the work. It's boring at times. But at the end of the day, there's no doubt that there's going to be growth. Okay? Just like putting in reps just to, when you're going to the gym, right? Like you want these muscles. Like, I mean, I don't got the biggest muscles, but at the end of the day, you want to be like shredded. You want to be, but it's going to take eating chicken and rice every day, or eating vegetables, right? Or maybe you're just eating salmon, or maybe you're just eating steak, or maybe you're just having eggs every day. Okay. Like me, I eat eggs every day. For the most part, right? I haven't been eating as well the last few days. However, my point is that it's going to be boring, but as long as you are consistent and you're just putting in the work, and there's no other way out but you putting in the work, and you're just focused on putting in the work that's boring for most people, you're going to start to find fun in it when you see progress. Because in the beginning, you're not going to see any progress, and that's totally fine. I mean, you shouldn't see progress for a while, but if you start seeing progress, you're then going to be like, all right, like I'm starting to like this a little bit because I saw some progress, right? First week in the gym, you might not see the most progress, but then when you're in the gym for a month, you might start to see some form of result, even if it's a micro result. You're going to see some form of progress. And when you start seeing that progress, boy, does it feel good, because you know that you're actually progressing in something. Okay? I was a lazy fuck myself. If I'm being honest, I'm not even where I want to be yet. But when I was living in my car, I wasn't where I wanted to be either. However, I knew it was a matter of time and effort on the right things. And I knew that if I just kept putting in the work and I just kept going at it, I knew for a fact that it was just a matter of time and effort. Okay? It's going to be boring along the way. And to be honest, if I had one wish, most people say, oh, if I had one wish, I wish I could fly, or I wish I could be invincible or invisible, or I wish I could speak all the languages in the world, or I wish I was the strongest man in the world. No, look, if I had one wish, it would honestly be to learn as fast as possible. If I had one superpower I could choose, it wouldn't be to fly, it wouldn't be to be invisible. It'd be to learn as fast as possible. Because imagine I could learn anything in 3 seconds. I would fucking kill it with whatever. I would learn how to build a MacBook in fucking 3 seconds. Imagine that. I would learn how to become the best filmmaker or video content guy in 3 seconds. Imagine that. So at the end of the day, obviously that's not possible. However, if you stay consistent long enough, there is no reason why you shouldn't cut through the learning curve. Okay? I'm not where I want to be right now, but again, I wasn't at where I wanted to be 7 months ago, but now I'm at a better spot, thankfully. Got clients coming in the door. My business is growing little by little. Contacts are being built. And at the end of the day, most people don't feel ready. Okay? But if I'm being honest, ready doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Because there's no such thing as feeling prepared and feeling like, you know what, I will finally do it once I get here, right? But it's like when you get there, then you're gonna be like, no, once I get here, and no, once I get. So you're just gonna keep going at it, and so being ready doesn't exist. There's a book, I forgot who's the author, but there's a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. There's no aim. Imagine ready, pop, fire. Like you just fire, just take action, bro. Just go at it, because at the end of the day, ready, aim, right? Like you're gonna stay there and I'm not ready yet, right? Like ready, fire, aim. Okay, there's no aim. There isn't. So most people are waiting to feel ready, but that feeling is never going to come for them, because while they're waiting around feeling the readiness to come to them, they're sitting around doing butt fuck nothing. So if you get your ass up, do what has to be done, and you start going towards the finish line, eventually you will get there, because it's not going to come to you. So if you start going after it, there's no reason why you're not going to catch up if you're actually running and going after it. So in my case here, I started off with living in the car, working out of a laptop, and I had no camera for my video content agency. However, I started building up some money. Believe it or not, I was homeless, living in a car for 7 months, and I ended up closing a $5,000 client. Okay, I did work for this client for 2 months. I had no camera. I only had a computer. Okay, and I ended up doing work for this client for 2 months, and from there, that's when I was like, I made $5,000 and I'm living in a car. How is this possible, right? So from there, I was like, well, I got to stash this. And I was willing to keep living in the car, just because I wasn't paying rent, obviously, living in a car. I was just paying my insurance and my gas. And so at the end of the day, I was like, if I can get to $10,000 saved up and I'm still living in the car, I can most likely make it to $20,000 to still live in the car. Like, I already had a plan. Like, I'm just going to keep living in the car and I'm making this money, right? But life doesn't always go how you want it to go. So from there, I ended up losing it all again. And then I closed another $5,000 client. I did it twice, right? Still nothing. Went back down to the bottom. Why was it? Was it because I wasn't feeling ready? No, it was because I was taking action, closing these big clients for some reason. I don't know how I was closing them, but I was closing these big clients, and then I was taking action. But what was I doing? Why was I going back down to the bottom? Because I was failing, okay? I was failing at making more clients happy, okay? At scaling the business rather than just focusing all on those clients that paid me $5,000 because I felt like I was obligated just to be with them, right? So at the end of the day, I wasn't scaling my business with more $5,000 clients. I only had 2 $5,000 clients in total, and these weren't back to back. But I was failing so much back to back that I started learning and getting the hang of things, and I started thinking, well, what do I need to do different? And that's where I was like, okay, well, we got to polish it up a little bit, right? Like, this is how we got to do it. And that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have made $10,000 in total from 2 clients, these that I'm talking about, if it wasn't for me going after it and getting to it and actually being willing to fail, because that is what taught me, is being willing to take failure to the face as if it was a slap to the face from a girl that you can't hit back as a man, right? So at the end of the day, I took failure and I said, I'm going to keep going. Took failure again. I'm going to keep going, right? And the first $5,000 client, I actually landed it when I was living in the car, but I landed it because they were my table when I was serving at Toscano, at this fine dining Italian restaurant that I was working at, that everybody thought I was Italian for some reason. But I closed this $5,000 client because he was one of my tables at this restaurant I was working at as a waiter. And I ended up closing him as a client because I took action. He was my table. I said, hey, what do you do? Right? Like, you obviously look like a baller. You look like you make money. What do you do? I do this. Do you need help with this? And at the time I was only running ads, right? And he was like, you know what? I actually might need some help with that. We hop on a call. We hop on another call. And next thing you know, he's my client for $5,000. And so from there on, something popped in my head. And I said, you know what? It doesn't matter whether you're broke or living in a car. As long as you take action, eventually you will get there. So keep taking action, bro. Keep doing the thing, all right? Success is waiting for you. Look it up or look up Alex.